Hey everyone, this is another video review of yet another Hot Toys figure. It's another one that I've had for a couple of weeks now, but I've not actually got a chance to kind of do a review on it. But today we've got the Spider-Man Homecoming Spider-Man from Hot Toys. This is the deluxe version and it's MMS 426. There's a few extra bits and pieces that make it slightly different from the standard edition, just a few more accessories, and naturally there's a little bit steeper price point on it, not tremendously so, and to be honest with you, with some of them that have got not particularly fantastic accessories, I highly recommend this one for the extras you get in it. So here's the box art anyway for a start before we kind of get into what it contains. Looking at it, obviously it's not the figure, it's an artistic kind of illustration of Spidey rather than the actual figure itself. The graphics is really nice though. I do like all this. Bit of a shame again when we get to the posability that we're not able to replicate this pose, but you know, that's a complaint I guess when we actually get to looking at the articulation side of things. So we'll keep moving around. All the text is all lovely and glossy and the text is embossed. You get around the side and it just says Spider-Man and the deluxe version and the model number. On the back you've got a fantastic silhouette style illustration of Spidey there. All the usual warnings and you obviously your barcode and you can see there your little hologram to confirm it's official. So we get around to the front and we'll just flip open. This is a bit slightly different to the conventional slip sleeve figures that we've had recently from some of the Marvel stuff. It's actually got a magnetic flap here that opens up, and we get it open like so. The figure still slides out of this the same way as you would normally expect one of the slip sleeves to do, but this has got this magnetic panel in this kind of flap here. It tells you, you know, your creative credits here, your cast and crew down the side, and then you've got a couple of accessories that are stuck here. Now these are the little gimmicks that Hot Toys seem to be obsessed with. For all the merits that they've got of being able to make a really nice realistic looking figure, they're a sucker for something a little bit silly and a little bit gimmicky, and these are basically designed so that you shine a torch through it and you basically get the Spidey Eyes logo on the wall, kind of replicating what he got at the end of Civil War when Tony gives him the fancy watch and it's, or the web shooter, whatever it is, and it's kind of beaming on the ceiling, something like that. In the other half you've got all your accessories. Naturally your figure would sit here, and you're actually supposed to get the Peter Parker head sculpt there, and the head sculpt is actually on the body of Spidey, but I've swapped it out, so the body that I've got out has got Peter's head on it rather than the Spidey head, but I'll swap it out back to normal when we get the figure out in a second. Like I said before, if we just close this up, you get on top of here and it's just a typical open this and this plastic tray slides out, much the same as a lot of the Marvel figures that we've got recently. But that's your box art. Really impressed with the actual detailing and the illustrating on there. I really like that. It's a shame that I've not got space to display some of my figure boxes, because that's a cracking one to go on display. But without any further ado, I'll get the actual accessories and the figure out on here and we can have a look at them. Okay, back in a second. Hi guys, so we're back and we've got all the extras out on the table. Well, not all of them however, because I've got the deluxe accessories that you get just off to one side. This is just to show you what you would get if you were to buy the standard edition, so it's still a lot of stuff as you can see. We'll get to the actual figure in a moment, so we can have a proper discussion about him, a look at his articulation, the costume and things a little bit after. Let me just straighten up so you can see things a little bit better. There we go. So first things first, you get the usual stuff. You get an instruction manual first of all. Absolutely a must to have a look at this. Generally, you know, you need to be looking at every figure instruction manual that you get, just so that you know its limitations and things, but especially with this, there's so many little parts of it where you shouldn't be moving it so far, and you need to be careful and need to be wary over how you're positioning his arms and his legs with the suit being so stretchy. You don't want to cause any damage to it, so absolutely follow your instructions. You also get a pair of wrist pegs. These are red in colour to match the wrist joints, so he's obviously got a nice colour coordinated wrist peg to go with the rest of him. He's got a stand, which is the standard kind of 7-sided Hot Toys figure stand we've been getting at the moment, like for Guardians and things like that. The Marvel Cinematic Universe ones, like Winter Soldier, not Winter Soldier, sorry, Civil War. So the Civil War figures have got that base as well. Quite nice, comes with a little silver placard. What I would say is I would have liked to have had the option with this to have had the kind of crotch cradle style stand as well, because he's just got the waist grabber and a bendy pole. Now, I'm not trusting that suit taking the strain of that waist grabber for too long, so I'm not even going to put it on. I'm going to leave him basically leant up against that pole as he is. The actual figure itself has got a couple of magnets under his arms, so he kind of holds in place if you put him at a particular angle against that pole without having to kind of have anything kind of wrapped around him causing any friction on the suit. So it might be better off going for that. Moving on with further accessories, so then you've got your waist grabber as I explained before. In terms of the Spidey stuff, so here's the actual kind of real meat of it all really. You get a little backpack which is really nice. The zips on it work on both the two main pockets there. They don't have zips on the kind of little pocket and the front pocket here. They don't have any zips that work, but the top two pockets do work. It's stuffed with foam at the minute just to kind of bulk it out, but you can obviously store his accessories and things in there if you wanted to have him look like he was running to school with his Spidey bits in his bag. So there's that. Little Science Today book, which is got printed. It's repeated, but it's really sweet the fact that they've actually given these pages. I don't know if you can see that in there. It just basically says the suitable is for figure pages 18 up, etc. Loads of T's and C's, but it's nice that it's printed because they could have just given us a blank white textbook. But you know, you can always throw that into his backpack and things. So that's an option. It comes with this pair of headphones, which are designed for the Spider-Man head sculpt to wear, not the Peter Parker portrait. So there's those. You've seen it in other promo stuff. I wouldn't try putting it on the Tom Holland head just because they are likely to strain. The plastic kind of there is not particularly thick, so just be wary of that. It's for Spider-Man, not for Peter Parker. By all means, you could probably put it around his neck maybe if you wanted to have him rocking that look, but don't put it around the Parker head. Moving on a little bit more then, we've got some hands in here. So I'm surprised it didn't come with a little bit more, but to be honest with you, 5 pairs of hands is more than enough, I guess. It's just, I suppose I'm being greedy with it. He's got 2 closed fists on the actual figure. He's got 2, they look like closed fists, but they are web grabbing hands. So I don't know if you can see that there. If you look, there is just a slight gap that runs down the middle of them, and it's designed to thread the translucent webbing through it so you can have him swinging. You get one of those for the left and right. You get his web shooter hands, which are obviously what a lot of people are going to be sticking on one of the hands at least, which is really cool. You kind of get some relaxed grasping hands. They're not a complete closed hand, but you know, it's quite nice. For things like, you've got the mask sculpt there that you can see in the background, just the spare mask. You can have him kind of holding his mask while he's got the Peter Parker head on, or if he's holding onto his bag strap or something. So that's one of the options, and the other option is these, which are really, really cool. And they're kind of like the wall crawling fingers, so that you can see that there's like some kind of pressure on the fingertips. So you can have him crawling up the side of your cabinets and things, if you feel brave enough to use that flight pole. It wouldn't be too bad, obviously, if you used it in terms of just taking a couple of pictures and then popping it back, but I wouldn't do it long term as a display. And then finally, we've got these 2 clear plastic pieces, which are designed with magnets in the top and about halfway down on this side, and what they do is they fit underneath his arms, so you can repeat that scene where he flies over the monument over that helicopter. These are the magnets that I was on about, where you can kind of use them as a bit of leverage against his stand. but they're alright. He has to have his arms up in a big 90-degree angle, so not so sure about them, but they're quite cool. I would have preferred them maybe to have been like a rubber or something, or a plastic that was more flexible, so you can have him posed with them, because they're so hard you can only have them in that one pose. Moving on a little bit further here then, we've got a pair of web shooters. He's got a pair on his actual body, so let's just move the camera just a little bit up without giving too much away just yet. You can see he's got the web shooters on his wrists. These have got hollow indentations in them, which are designed, if you look just there, again, very much like the hands, there's a little hollow recess in the silver bit. It's just to stick the webbing through it, so you can have him, so he's actually shooting the webbing out of his web shooter, which is pretty awesome really. I do like that. You get kind of a closed one as well. I'm not sure why they gave you the closed one, because to be honest with you, it's not massively noticeable in itself, but there you go. It's nice to have a couple more accessories, I suppose. You've got your Spider-Man mask. Now this isn't wearable, it's stitched really thin at the bottom. You're not getting anything in there. That's basically so that you can hold it as a prop, sticking out of his bag or whatever. Don't be chopping it up or trying to squeeze anything in there, because it just won't work. So pop that to one side. And finally, with the, like I said, with the mention of webbings, here's a foam insert with 5 different styles of web. You get 2 of the short range webs, 2 of the long range webs, and the long range ones have got an open clip which is designed to fit this big web piece here that we've got. That's designed so that you can have him actually flinging and sticking to a wall with a web. I don't think they'll hold up to a long-term strain, so again, try and limit it to get your pictures taken and then pop it back off, because you don't want to weight these down and bend them. And then finally you've got the kind of swinging kind of web, which is what we'll call it, I guess. It's designed so that he can actually hold it in the middle here, and he can kind of have this bit trailing out from under his wrist. And it's more like a web swinging pose rather than kind of shooting a web out, which is like these ones, which are obviously for like, you know, attacking or something like that. But that's those there. They're really nice. Before we get on to the real important bit, which I can see just there, looking just to the left, you've got some alternative eyes, which are really cool. They do operate on a magnet style similar to that of what Deadpool had. The only stipulation here is you don't get a magnet removal tool, so you just have to be really careful around that fabric mask in taking them off. I've used just another one of the actual eyepieces themselves to lift one out of the head. I'm really dubious over the suit, like I keep repeating myself on it. I don't want to kind of get any nicks or any pulls in this, and anything like a screwdriver or anything like that might just tear it, so just be careful. But they're really sweet. You've got some kind of squinting, almost like concentrating, focusing eyes. You've got some slightly wider ones here, which are a little bit more open. These ones, which we'll call the angry eyes, I guess, they look a little bit more aggressive. And then finally, the middle ones here, which are the red ones, which were the kill mode eyes. Now, these weren't actually told in the actual pre-order itself. There was no indication that we were due to be getting these. They're purely there as kind of a bonus, really, that we weren't informed of. So it's really cool that we've got that as part of this too. I've got the wider eyes on the figure at the moment, so 5 pairs of eyes is really sweet as well. Again, more accessories, there's a lot in this to cover. And finally, the Tom Holland head sculpt, which is absolutely incredible. Just stellar work. You can see every little detail in Tom Holland's face. They're doing that thing at the minute where they're not looking dead on, they're just looking kind of off to one side. But I think it does kind of make this guy just pop. I've been displaying him for, like I say, a couple of weeks now with this head on the Spidey body rather than the actual costumed head, but I do really like it. I love the eyes, I love the hair sculpt as well. It's really nice. The skin texture is great, and I mean, it's undeniably the Tom Holland Spider-Man. There's no kind of discerning that that's not who it's supposed to be. So really great job on that one. And then finally what we'll do is we'll just get the accessories over here, which are from the deluxe edition, which is only available in that set. The accessories that you've seen thus far in the review just now are purely from the standard edition. So if you were to buy the normal edition, you'd get all that we've seen so far. These bits here are from the deluxe edition. So first of all, you get the Vulture Helmet. It's really cool. I like what they're doing is popping these kind of extra helmets and masks and things in, like they gave you the Crossbones helmet with Captain America, and with the Punisher we got recently, you got a Daredevil head with him. So they're really cool. I do really like this. You can almost, if I just try and focus it maybe, you can kind of see this two glowing green LED looking things underneath the visor. It almost feels like they were intentional, like they were going to make this illuminated, which is really awesome. It's a shame they didn't. There is no head peg inside there either, like some of the other head sculpts that we've got. So there's no way that you can pop that on a figure unless you were to install something inside this. I think it's just to do with the fact that we've not had many villain figures recently. The villains tend to kind of tank at a pre-order level and they never come to fruition, which is a little bit disappointing because that yellow jacket that we got was really great, and it never came out. So I think it's something to blame with the Mandarin that we got for Iron Man 3, which was a really great Ben Kingsley likeness, but I don't think many people pre-ordered it. And it's the same like again with the Man of Steel General Zod. I can pick that up for buttons on eBay. I think it's about £100 if you want one of those. And that Michael Shannon head sculpt is fantastic. But just people aren't in the market for villains, or the villains aren't justifiable for people to buy as a figure. So I think that's the best you're going to get for now in terms of some of the villains. But it's really nice. It'd be nice to be able to make a Michael Keaton conversion out of it. And then lastly, the last couple of accessories you get in this deluxe, so you get the Keaton kind of Vulture helmet, and you get his skull blazer and his little blue hoodie. I've not taken these out of the box on purpose because I'm not going to display my Spidey with them. I'm not terribly keen on that blazer. I think even though Spider-Man is clearly bright red and blue, I just think it looks a little bit too garish, and I think it detracts from the whole look of Spidey. I might have second thoughts on it when I get my Infinity War Iron Spider and I want like a schoolboy Peter Parker Spider-Man and then this more serious Avengers one. But that's what you get in it. They're nice, the hoodie zips up, the blazer looks like it's really nice quality as well. So you can repeat that scene where he's locked inside that storage facility and he's got his kind of headphones on and his blazer and his hoodie over his Spider-Man costume if you want to. But it's nice that they included that, and again, to have a few bits like that means that you can do a couple of cool little conversions, which we'll get to a little bit later on. So we'll get the figure up close now and we'll have a chat about him first. Okay, back in a second. So this is the figure now up close. Now we've got all the accessories out of the way. As you can see, I've opted for the big wide eyes to give it more of a traditional Spidey look to it. But he's pretty generic other than that, without any of the accessories and bits and pieces stuck on him. If we go right up close into his face, you'll see that lovely texture and detail of the fabric that's stretched over the head sculpt. It's great, but it does make me worry about the the longevity and the survivability of you being able to kind of take those eyes and move the head sculpt back and forth. So just be careful with it. Remember that the fabric that's wrapped around the neck peg is the same fabric and it's wrapped around the head sculpt. So when you turn in the head, you do get two fabrics running against each other. And obviously the friction there, you don't want it to wear, you don't want it to pull or anything like that. So just be super duper gentle with it. Treat it nicely and slowly is my best advice I'd give you. The only gripe that I've got is when you've got the Tom Holland head sculpt on this, that you potentially give him a bit kind of a bobblehead look to him. His head can look a little bit too big for his body just because the Spider-Man costume is so slender. So I like it a lot when it's on there. As I say, I've been displaying it with the Tom Holland head just because I love that head sculpt so much. But just bear in mind there's certain things that are going to look right and certain things that you need to be wary of. So get reading those instructions just for your own kind of benefit with it. We'll just kind of pan back here and have a look at this completed kind of costume as well. Really like all these kind of black patterns and things, and the little line work that runs over the suit too. Really big fan of it, and I know a lot of people weren't at the time. They thought it looked a little bit too kind of high tech, but naturally, given that Tony Stark builds this suit, I think it's more than acceptable to kind of see some detailing on it like that. Plus, it does break it up. It doesn't just look like a blue and red blur kind of swinging through the air. He's got these details on that highlights him a little bit better. Obviously in comics and things, he's got like shading and stuff you can put on him, in like, you can black certain areas out through shading. You can't do that with obviously a moving person in a movie, so this is the next best thing. So I think it highlights and it emphasises certain areas, so you get a good kind of level of detail at him just by seeing those little features. So I do like them. In terms of the actual articulation of the figure, so let's just bring him a little bit closer so we can have a move him. His shoulders are on a ratchet joint, so it's really strong, heavy ratchet skeleton underneath this, so you can hear it. Really strong. Some forward movement, which again I'd be careful of, so I'm going to give it to about there. And the arm movement, maybe give it no more than about, I'd probably just say no more than that. You're probably pushing your luck. I certainly wouldn't leave it in this pose long term, just with the way that the suit rocks up. You'll cause some damage to it. Ab crunch, the muscle detail and the definition of the stomach is really nice. Like the body underneath this suit is absolutely phenomenal. Just the suit limits you a little bit in terms of what you can and can't do. So he's got an ab crunch. Don't overdo it again, is my advice. So that's as far as you can get. And then with the legs. Now the legs here, on ratchets as well, I wouldn't go any more than 2 clicks with. That's as brave as I'd get. And in terms of the knee, I'd go there, 45 degrees. And that's being brave, I suppose. And I wouldn't be leaving that by a long shot in that position. Because I have heard this latex stuff that the legs are made out of, that the upper body isn't, this stuff sticks to each other. I had a bit of a similar problem with my Man of Steel, where the arms kind of rocked up and then stuck to each other, and kind of almost kind of that kind of skin on a leather sofa kind of thing where it peels off. Just be really careful. So straight legs, museum poses for me all the way with this guy. And then down to his feet. His feet are on a ball joint, and he's got a little bit of toe movement as well. So quite nice, but I just think with a little bit better engineering with this suit, you'd have had a much better posable Spidey. I do question why we didn't have a seam here and it was wrapped in a similar way as the head, so your legs were on a complete separate piece of fabric that you could just totally just bend and throw up in the air and get a proper Spidey pose out of. So there's a couple of minor complaints with it, but overall I think it's a great figure. It's just be prepared to pose him, take your pictures, and then keep him permanently displayed in a museum pose for the greater good of it, really. Again, it's great. I do really like the figure, don't get me wrong. If I was to grade it, I'd give it maybe about an 8 out of 10. On the merit of the Tom Holland head sculpt, I'd be saying it's a 10 out of 10. But then, on the kind of engineering side of things with that costume, I think it drops it down a few notches. So, yeah, an 8 out of 10 is probably good. I mean, it's certainly a decent enough score if I was to give it one. And I do highly recommend this figure, if you can get one, that is. I know he's been quite hard to get after, and I know that there's been some delivery and kind of supply problems with him. So I know the price on him is a little bit high at the moment. So one final thing that I'll mention just before we kind of cap this review off is the what I mentioned before with the blazer and things like that. I'm just tacking it on the end of the video because I actually forgot to record it. So this will just currently require a little bit of editing onto the end of it, but with regards to obviously the Spider-Man here looks that good as a comic book style Spidey and a movie universe style Spidey, that I do quite like leaving him outfitted up like this. However, it's a bit of a shame then to waste that Tom Holland head sculpt, and obviously you get a bit of stuff to kind of contribute towards making a Peter Parker in half costume, if you like. So what a lot of people have been doing they've been buying a secondary body and a few extra clothes and things. So from what I've been told and from what I've seen, there's the gang hood young, or I think it's Asian male, I think it is. It's basically the one that they made for like the Bruce Lee body. So it's really small, it's short and really lean and muscular. That fits perfect, and it's the same scale as Spidey as well. So you don't get like a really short kind of Spider-Man and then a really tall and buff Peter Parker as well. They're both in scale with each other. And what you do then is you'd pop your Peter Parker head sculpt on, buy a pair of jeans and some shoes and things, you know, maybe a t-shirt, and then you've got that hoodie and that school blazer. You know, you've even got an extra pair of web shooters, you know, in theory that you could kind of pop one on his hand. You could have him like kind of, as he's doing that, he'd be peeling back his Spidey suit, and you'd see one of the gloves doing the web shooter fingers, you know, something like that. You've got options with it, and I think for the sake of buying one of the gang hood bodies for about 20 quid, and then a couple of colours and things for about another tenner, you've got a second figure there for less than like £30. So it's well worth considering. But with that, now we're going to end the review off. Let me know what you guys think. Drop me a comment in the bottom. If you've had any obstacles, if you had any problems with him as well, in terms of the suit, or if you've got yours displayed in a kind of crazy posable way and it's been fine since, leave a comment. You know, also really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button if you want to tune into future videos, and obviously that like as well goes a long way. Naturally, with it being you know, only a couple of videos in, if you do click that bell icon as well, it prompts you with a little notification the next time one's uploaded too, so you don't miss out on anything. Okay, well with that said, I'll see you next time guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye bye.